Alright guys, welcome back, and in this video I want to start talking to you about int and float arrays. Now, there are actually a lot of differences between int and float arrays and character arrays, so I'm just gonna cover those in this video and probably maybe even the next video. I'm not sure, who the heck knows. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be creating a basic array, looping through it, and showing you guys the differences and where you might get stuck up on them. So int I, that's just going to be my counter whenever I loop through them. Now, of course, just like a character array, what you do is you put the data type, and I'm just going to make a simple int array, which is going to hold integers, and I'm going to name it meatballs. Now, in between the brackets, of course, you write how many elements you want to hold. Now, whenever you want to populate your array, what you do is you use curly braces, and you pretty much type a list of numbers in here. So just put 7, 9, like 43, 21. Now this, of course, is called initializing the array. Pretty much the spot where you create the array. Simple enough. Now, one other major difference I want to point out is int and float arrays are different than character arrays because they don't have that null character at the end. They don't have that null zero. So that's more for the internal stuff, but you probably should remember that because it's going to come up later if you try to get the size of the array or anything like that, or you're looping through it and it doesn't seem quite right. So just remember, whenever you're working with numbers in an array, there is no null zero. That's just for strings and character arrays. So now let's go ahead and make a for loop so I can show you guys what up. And in 0, and I'll put I is less than 4 and I plus plus. And in a second I'll show you guys how to populate an array through a loop. It's kind of different than this line right here. But for now we'll just printf. And what can we do? We'll put like element %d, and then we'll put %d. And for the first one we'll just print out I, which is whatever loop we're on. And the second one we'll access an individual element using meatball, and of course, just like before, we put the element's name in between square brackets. So actually, let me put a new line here and print this bad boy out. So just like before, starts at 0, 1, 2, 3. That means it has 4 elements total. 7, 9, 43, 21. And again, no 0 at the end. So I guess we have time for it in this tutorial. So now what I want to show you guys how to do is populate an array using a loop. Because even though this is really simple syntax right here, it's not very useful and also not very practical. Sometimes you're going to want to read through a database, or you're going to want to let the user enter a series of numbers through the keyboard. So I'll show you guys how to do that. So we can actually get rid of this right here, and let's make an array with 5 in it. That'll be a little bit better. A little bit more even for my ADD. Alright, so let's just go ahead and build a simple program where we let the user enter 5 numbers, we store it in an array, and we'll say we'll calculate the average or something. So we'll say that the user is going to enter how many meatballs they ate, and we'll calculate the average of, how that means you ate this many per day. Simple enough. So we got int I for our counter. Int meatballs is going to be how many they ate. And of course, whenever we're calculating average, we need total balls, which is going to hold the total amount. Just set that to 0 for now. Alright, so pretty much every single loop, we'll go ahead and give them prompts. Be like, how many meatballs did you eat on day %d? And kick that to a new line. And then, since this is going to start with 0, what we want to do is put I plus 1. And this isn't going to change the value of I, it's just going to display whatever the current value is plus 1. So it's perfect. It'll be better for the user to see what the heck is going on. So now let's give them an area where they can scan in a number that they entered. And of course we want to store this in meatballs. So ampersand and I Looking good. So basically right now, whatever they enter, and they're going to enter it one by one, it's going to be stored in meatballs, in first meatball 0 all the way to meatballs 4. So now we have a populated array, an array full of numbers. So the only thing we have to do now is loop through the same way we did before, but now we're going to use those numbers to calculate the average. So we're going to store the total number right here, and for each element of the array, we pretty much add it to total balls. Total balls, kind of funny variable name. Alright, so say we enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to add 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, until total balls now equals the total amount of balls. So now we have to get the average of those. So int, make a new variable for our average, and set this equal to, of course, you guys know how to calculate average, the total over how many days. Well, we inputted 5 different numbers, so that means 5 different days. And now we just print this crap out on the screen. So the first, well, what can we do? We'll just put something simple. Put U8 percent meatballs total. That's an average of %d per day. Simple enough. Looks alright. So the first one is U8 total. Give them their total first. And their average is, of course, the average. Let me kick that to a new line because it's bugging me. And actually, I want to put this on new line. Give myself a little bit of space to work with. So now, if everything looks good, alright, I think I'm good to go. So how many meatballs did you eat on day 1? I only ate 12. On day 2, I was pretty hungry that day, 98. Day 3, 561. On day 4, I only ate 2. And on day 5, I ate 66. So I ate 739 meatballs total. And this is actually pretty accurate because I do love meatballs. I get like a meatball sub every other day. Average 147 per day. Pretty sweet. And that again is how you let the user enter or populate an array manually. And whenever you're reading like from an Excel file or a comma separated file, you're pretty much going to use the same concept of taking pieces of data and entering it into an array, but it's going to be slightly different. But now that you understand the concept, it's going to be really easy to understand later on. So for now, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out my website. I'll see you later.